Welcome to task 3.5, and this task focuses on what to do if your computer does not meet the hardware requirements. So basically, if you have any of these areas that say fail underneath them, this task is going to be for you, because you'll need to figure out what to do about all of these fails. So there's three potential courses of action that you may do as a result of these fails. The first one is to ignore. The second one is to do an upgrade, and the third is to either buy new or replace your computer. So I'm going to go through each of these categories and kind of run through some scenarios on what you may need to do. So for this first one under processor, if you are a new incoming student, you're likely going to want to make sure that all of these categories matches your computer as closely as possible. So again, this is for interior architecture and product design. Now let's just say if I was in planning. As you can see, if you are in planning, the specifications are very different. So make sure that you pay attention to this field of study drop-down box up here at the top. So I'm going to switch it back to interior architecture and product design. Now if you are a third, fourth, or fifth year, chances are you're going to ignore this. This is not very relevant. If your computer does or doesn't have the turbo feature, or if it's not exactly 2.8 gigahertz, it's not going to really impact your workflow that much. Now you're probably wondering why does it impact a second year's workflow so much? Well, because a second year is going to have to be in school a lot longer than, say, a third, fourth, or fifth year. So we're trying to make sure that as a second year that you're going to have a computer that's going to last the duration of your education here. The second one is system memory. Now, I highly recommend that if your computer doesn't have 16 gigabytes of memory, that you should get that 16 gigabytes of memory if your computer can take it without a huge financial expense. Down here where it talks about speed, this is really not that important if you are a third, fourth, or fifth year, but if you are an incoming second year, you want to make sure that you have as much speed as you possibly can with your memory. The third one is the video card, and this one's actually quite important. So you want to make sure that you have an NVIDIA Quadro if you are in interior landscape or architecture. Now if you're in regional community planning, the video card's not going to be so important to you because you're not going to be living in those design applications like the other professions will be. So you want to make sure that you do have an NVIDIA Quadro, and there is a very particular brand that you need to have. Now, if you are a third, fourth, and fifth year and you purchased, the recommended computer, whatever it was at the time that you were entering into the college, chances are you already have everything that you need, and you don't need to worry if it's not this exact same video card. Down here where it talks about capacity, the minimum is 2 gigabytes. So if you have something that exceeds 2 gigabytes, that's fine. That's not going to really impact anything. I probably wouldn't go anything lower than 2 gigabytes. If you're a third, fourth, or fifth year and you don't have a 2 gigabyte memory video card, I probably wouldn't worry about it at this point in time unless you have the money to do an upgrade. The next one is the primary hard drive. So we're recommending for new incoming second years to have a 1 terabyte C drive. And the reason why is because we ran some calculations and predicted that by the time you reach your fifth year, you're going to be out of disk space if you only have a 512 gigabyte drive. Now if you're a third, fourth, and fifth year, that's not going to really impact you all that much. So if you're still sitting on a 512 gigabyte drive in your third, fourth, and fifth year, I probably wouldn't go through the trouble to upgrade. The next requirement is we're recommending a minimum of a mechanical drive if you're in interior architecture and product design. So again, pay attention to what this drop down is set to. So in this particular situation, the user has a solid state drive, which is obviously much faster than a mechanical drive. So speed is not really relevant here. But if you do have a mechanical drive, speed will become relevant, and for interior architecture and product design, they're recommending a minimum of a 5400 RPM. Now if we change this to, for example, to landscape, you can see how the specifications will change. So this is definitely something to pay close attention to. So again, if you are third, fourth, or fifth year and you have, something that isn't exactly 1 terabyte, maybe you're at 512, you're going to do just fine. And if you're still on a mechanical drive, you'll also do fine as well. But if you're an incoming second year and you're in interior architecture and product design, you're probably going to want to make sure that these specifications either meet or exceeds these values over here to the left. Secondary hard drive. So apparently this is something that wasn't really required in the specifications this year. So if you have one, that's really great. If you don't, I probably wouldn't sweat it, because according to the technology committee this year, they recommended that this was something that was not required. So what does that basically mean? If you're an incoming second year, you don't have to get a secondary internal hard drive on your computer. But if you would like to have one, that's fine. I mean, it's not going to hurt you in any way, that's for sure. It might help you because you can keep your data separated from your operating system. If you're a third, fourth, and fifth year and you have a secondary drive and you know the specification says that it's not needed, your chances are you're going to do just fine. You can continue on with your usual workflow. This isn't going to really impact anything that you do. The next one is the integrated network interface card. So the college network is on the Ethernet, so that's the cable that you plug into your computer. It's not on wireless. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a network interface device. So this is basically an Ethernet device. So you want to make sure that you have one, and then it can support up to 1 gigabit. So if you have one that's 100 or 10, I believe that the network is backwards compatible. You'll just be a little bit slower than everyone else. In fact, today I don't know too many places that sell network interface cards that are slower than the 1 gigabit ones. Moving on to the Ethernet cable. So we're recommending somewhere between 35 to 50 feet. If you're not sure exactly how long you need, then I would probably bring the 50 foot. I would not bring anything longer than 50 feet. If you do that, you may experience some signal degradation with cable length. So make sure that you're between 35 and 50 feet. If you arrive in studio and find that you can't reach your nearest Ethernet jack, chances are there's someone in the chain who hasn't plugged into the correct Ethernet jack, which has caused you to be offset some. And we are on 1 gigabit network, so if you want to take advantage of that, I definitely recommend getting a Cat6 cable. DVD, CD burner. Sometimes you'll find that your professors will want you to submit your final project on a CD or DVD so that they can archive it. So you just want to make sure that you have the ability to burn a CD. The computer lab does have CD burners, but I will tell you that those are usually the first things to break in a lab computer. Backup drives. So again, this is something that wasn't really required. Again, the technology committee did not make any backup solution recommendations. So historically, we usually ask students to have at least 3 backup drives. The first one was for imaging your C drive, and the other 2 was basically having your data in 2 physical places. Now, if you don't have any backup drives, again, this wasn't something that was not recommended, so it's not going to really impact you. But just from an IT standpoint, I highly recommend that you come up with some kind of backup solution. Down here we get to the USB thumb drive. So this is something that you'll need to carry your presentation when you have to do a presentation, or if you're in lab, for example, if you're taking technical module courses, you'll need to back up the data that you worked on for that day onto your thumb drive, because public computers are public computers in the lab and somebody could come in and accidentally delete your data. It does happen. Down here where it says technical module and warranty coverage, technical support and warranty coverage, this is something that is actually quite important. So in this particular example, we can see in the example that the student has 4 years of school left, but they don't have any warranty coverage. This means if their computer breaks down, they're going to need to make sure that they have some kind of backup solution in place. Like they're either going to work in the computer lab or they have another computer that they can fall back on. So as a new incoming second year, having 4 years of school that you still need to kind of conquer, having no warranty or technical support, this is actually a pretty bad thing. I will tell you that computers do break down. It doesn't matter how much money that you spend on your computer, they're mechanical and they will fail. So you'll need to have some sort of kind of backup plan set up here for when your computer fails. So for example, if your video card quits working, who can you call to help you troubleshoot this problem, and how will you replace this device if you find that it is the video card that is the problem? And most importantly, how long will it take you to remedy this problem? Is it something that's going to take up to 6 weeks to resolve? Because you're not going to have 6 weeks to resolve a video card problem, because I will promise you that you will have projects or assignments due weekly, and you'll have several of them due weekly. If you are a third, fourth, or fifth year and you're running into this scenario, I would say if you're a third or fourth year, this is something that you definitely want to be concerned about as well. If you are in your final year of school, it may not be so much of a concern for you, but I still recommend having a backup plan in place because you are working on your master's and your thesis report. So you want to make sure, I would say at a minimum, that you have that data backed up if you don't have this warranty support coverage in place. It might be possible that you can kind of limp along using the computer lab if your computer dies. Finally, we get the audio device and headsets. And again, this is something that you'll definitely need because your professors will often give you some video tutorials or other types of assignment that basically involves needing to have sound. So if you don't have audio on your computer, chances are you could probably get away with using the computer lab. There is only one computer lab and it's used by the entire college. And we have about 750 students and there's only 30 computers. So that is something to think about. I realize that a lot of this is very, very technical. So if you have any questions, you can definitely feel free to email me. And if you do decide to email me, please send me your sheet here. And if you're not sure what's supposed to go in these boxes, you can send me your Bellark report as well, and I could try to fill in these boxes for you. And then I can send the spreadsheet back to you. I want to make sure that everyone has the information that they need and that nobody's going to be confused. So again, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to shoot me off an email with your specifications, and we'll try to work through this so that we can make sure that you can be as successful as possible here at the College of Architecture, Planning and Design.